People will try and tell you in this life that it's not the destination that matters, it's the journey. And to that, I will tell you, dear watcher, they are full of crap. Is it the journey when you get to the airport and are delayed by 17 hours to your holiday resort that eats into your sun-lounging, coconut-sipping free time? Is it the journey when you're stuck on a bus in the middle of nowhere riddled with the runs because you ate bad street food and can't get off? Is it the journey when you're locked in an Uber watching your fare tick up and up and up while stuck in gridlock traffic? Is it? No, it is not. And the same can be said for films. As much as we might enjoy the fickle fancies that entertain us along the way, the ending is what solidifies a film into cinematic history, or relegates it to the trash heap. When it comes to horror movies in particular, so often we're left with lackluster twists and confused exposition dumps that the whole thing gets soured in the process. So let's take a look at the movies that promise so much more along the way, only to stick us in the bus with no toilets, the sweaty airport, or the goddamn doomed Tesla instead. I am the unhappy ending of Ash from What Culture, and these are 10 great horror films ruined by terrible endings. Emphasis on the great, despite everything I just said, they are still good movies. 10. 47 Meters Down. A big dumb shark movie needs to just be a big dumb shark movie, and there's not really much more you can ask of it than that. 47 Meters Down embodies this faithfully, delivering a gripping, suspenseful tale of two sisters, Kate and Lisa, stuck in the bottom of the ocean in a dive cage as great white sharks circle ahead. It really is great fun, and taps into that deep blue sea vein that deserves all of the love. But it is not satisfied with sticking to one ending, so 47 Meters Down doubles down on delivering two. First, we see both sisters survive, only to cut and have Lisa stuck at the bottom of the ocean and her sister killed by a shark. The pair being rescued a result of nitrogen narcosis from huffing too much gas. A bleak ending with one sister dying does suit the film's tone, but what was a sharp and snappy narrative becomes muddied by the bait and switch. If they were going to stick with the fake out, director Johannes Roberts should have gone with the original one he wrote that saw Lisa die when the hallucination wore off. Might as well go whole hog here and avoid the cliches of the inexperienced student surviving by virtue of the sacrificial mentor. We've seen it before. 9. The Void. Despite being a massive fan of this movie and all it does for 80s horror homage and wonderfully creepy practical effects, part of film criticism comes from being able to love something despite its flaws. And if we're speaking candidly, then The Void is a flawed yet still great movie. Following a police officer that finds an injured man and takes him to the closest hospital he can get to, Deputy Sheriff Daniel finds himself and his charge at a mostly abandoned hospital in the wake of a rebuilding after a fire. It doesn't take long for all hell to break loose though, and I mean that quite literally, as a nurse is transformed into a fleshy abomination and a massive cult gathering outside bars anyone from leaving the building. The Void is an hour and a half of shot-in-the-leg adrenaline, facing up new fantastical monsters and cult leaders in a strange doctor. But by the end of the film, we don't really have a real clue of what has happened during the runtime. Riffing a little too closely on the Beyond's ending instead of creating its own, The Void falls into its own black mass and delivers strangeness far more than it does coherence. That is fine if you know what you're in for, but the film promises something tangible and delivers a huh moment in its place. 8. Stephen King's It. Technically, yes, this is a mini TV series, but since it's been packaged as a movie in DVD sales and is 2 parts of a 3-hour whole, I'm going to bend the rules around this one and include it anyway. Truthfully, the miniseries really is not good from a technical standpoint, but has been regarded as a great by fans enthused by both King's work and Tim Curry's acting. Or at least it is for the most part, right up until we hit the interdimensional space spider ending. Whilst director Tommy Lee Wallace is to be commended for getting the source material realised so vividly on screen, the creature itself just doesn't work for the movie. The spider alien thing that appears saps all tension and carefully crafted horror from the screen, instead making a mockery of Curry's defining presence that should have been the glue holding this thing together. It was a nice idea, but poorly executed, and the finished product suffers as a result. 7. Hell House LLC. It is not often that found footage movies actually manage to pull it out of the bag. Hell House LLC manages to rise above the presumptions of its found footage framing and become an actually brilliant little movie then, showcasing a mockumentary on a team of friends who are building their haunted house in time for Halloween. One that ends in disaster as 15 people die on opening night. Getting to the bottom of the why takes the whole movie, and despite the perfect setup and chilling images Hell House LLC conjures up, it just doesn't land when the final image is of creepy, potentially possessed girl offing the camera crew with no real motive or explanation why. The Hell House mythos is wondrous, and a great example of found footage done right. Even the cultist mystery, whilst it could have been more fantastically executed, is best left as exactly that, a mystery. Just this end doesn't half feel disappointing compared to the rest of the narrative, and a trilogy setup isn't an excuse for the first ending not to bang. 6. Mom and Dad. With lashings of violence, zany character acting, and a plot that revels in its corny setup like nothing else, Mom and Dad is set up to be a film that knows what it is, entertaining in all the right ways without falling into the trap of being lost in its own arse. And whilst the ending can be considered as indicative of this still, perhaps one last troll from Cage himself before the credits roll, it is a choice that divides fans as to whether it stands up with the rest of the movie. Mom and Dad ends mid-sentence after a strange static has turned parents to wanting to murder their children, with the central mom and dad tied up and telling their kids they love them whilst restrained from attacking. Then, the last words are uttered by Cage. But sometimes we just want to... And then there's a cut. Nothing is explained, no reasoning is given, and the wacky premise of Mom and Dad is left to be enjoyed as is, no strings attached. Quite how much you can forgive for the simple enjoyment of axe-wielding Cage is definitely tested. 5. High tension. Honestly, this movie has been spoken about so many times that you all know the gist by now. The choice to use an unreliable narrator and make our protagonist the killer all along is a cheap, ineffective twist that undoes all of the good work the movie sets up otherwise. There are a million things to love about this movie, but the ending is not one of them. What otherwise serves as a solid horror story sees Marie and her friend Alex travel to Alex's parents' house for the weekend, only to be accosted by a deranged killer that unleashes all sorts of hell on the household. The parents are killed, Alex is kidnapped, and Marie is on the hunt to find her, only for it to be revealed that Marie is delusional and has committed all of the crimes we have seen throughout the movie. This would be a fine rug pull if there were literally any thread of continuity to pull this whole thing together, but as it stands, it just doesn't make sense. You can brush it all away with the excuse of an unreliable narrator in Marie, but really, it is best just to focus on the wonders, or rather horrors, of New French extremity that take place for the majority of this excellent movie, and ignore the finale completely. 4. The Descent, US version. The Descent is one of the best British horror outputs we have had in the past 2 decades. Serving up a slice of claustrophobic terror as a group of spelunkers are trapped in an unfamiliar cave system, the women must find a way back to the surface as subterranean monsters, hungry for flesh, hunt them down in their home. It is both tightly written and perfectly shot, paralleling protagonist Sarah's struggle with her failing mental health against a very real, physical threat. But if you were watching in the US, then its sharp veer into supernatural jump scares at the end was a disappointing cop-out like no other. Sarah manages to escape, jump into a car, and has a sudden vision of her dead friend Juno haunting her from the passenger seat, before waking up still on the floor of the cave. But the American version stops as Juno appears, trimming the important return and Sarah's inevitable death in service of a subpar gap that a sequel could jump into. It is weak, disorienting, and lacks all of the compelling bleakness that fits the tone of the rest of the movie. That they then made it canon remains one of cinema's biggest frustrations. 3. Sinister. Sinister really is one of the rare, wonderful Hollywood horrors that really knocks it out of the park for the most part. Working up its tension through incredibly creepy soundtracks instead of rote visuals, Sinister thrives on atmosphere, as it tells the story of a true crime writer that moves into the house of his latest story to really get into the writing mood. Whilst yes, he does indeed get into the writing mood, he also gets himself into a big old mess with a supernatural conspiracy that involves a box of snuff films, a cursed house, and a looming presence that he just can't shake. But it's only when this central mystery reveals itself that Sinister gets off track. The film ends with children being responsible for their family's murders, possessed and empowered by the demon Bagul. Showing this fella in his full glory kills the horror boner then and there. And what was once a terrifying hunt for artwork that conjures Bagul soon becomes average scares from a man with a sewn-shut mouth and Dave Grohl's haircut. Surprisingly, neither of these factors are effective at rounding off the perfectly tense tone the beginning of the movie set up. 2. Mama. Andy Muschietti's first dabble with feature-length horror is a loving and tender piece of work. Following two young girls rescued from an abandoned cabin in the middle of the woods, the orphans are followed by a dark presence named Mama. An ancient spirit that longs for her lost baby, Mama wants to reunite with her child in the afterlife, with the two girls standing in as substitute. Whilst the ending doesn't ruin the film outright, it suffers the same affliction as Sinister in ruining the horror part of its narrative, showing too much of the titular monster and dampening her threat as a result. Mama moves from a dark, shifting, unknowable entity into a clear CGI baddie, one shown in a way that isn't worthy of the build-up the rest of the film delivered her. The rest of the ending works as tragically charming, of course, with one child used as a stand-in for Mama's lost baby and giving her life to be with her. It's ballsy, but the quality of Mama's design doesn't hold up to make this land quite as well as it could have otherwise. 1. Escape Room. Escape Room could have been so much more as a movie. Delivering a solid premise that hasn't really been well executed on screen before, this big-budget rendition of a bunch of people banded together to face off against an escape room that is way more deadly than they bargained for is excellent fun for almost the entirety of the movie. It is tense, it is surprising, and there's lots to love about the puzzles it pits our ragtag team against as they attempt to understand both their trap and each other. But then it gets to the ending. Not happy with resting on its laurels and allowing for a neatly capped story, Escape Room wants to cash in on its premise again and again, setting up a poorly designed sequel that feels shoehorned in and cheap against the solid output the rest of the movie provides. The film did so well in setting up its story that it couldn't resist capitalizing on audiences' wallets, making for an ending that leaves a bitter taste in your mouth and a disparate, unsatisfying finale to what was shaping up as a gem of a horror movie.